All right, so the newest chapter of One Punch Man is here, and unfortunately, it's leaving a lot of fans pretty pissed off. To be honest, I'm kind of one of them, and we'll get into why in a bit. But I kind of wanted to cover the chapter first before we get into the details of why this is just not a good look for the One Punch Man franchise right now, and why a lot of fans are very upset. If you guys can remember from the previous chapter, we cut away from the empty void and blast stuff, the stuff that everybody was excited about to return to from the with the hiatus that one and Murata had taken for 2 months. We thought we'd be getting right into the blast versus empty void stuff, getting right into the action, and that's not at all what happened. We actually went into a chapter where we followed Suiryu of all people, joining the Neo Heroes. I'm not going to go too much into that chapter because it's, I don't know, not a whole lot happened in it. So Suiryu joins the Neo Heroes. He pretty much gets tricked into joining them in a way because he breaks the battle suit that he tried on from them, and now he's pretty much in debt to them and has to work for them, right? That leads into this chapter. So yes, we are not continuing with Blast or Empty Void in this chapter. We are continuing with Suiryu and the Neo Heroes. So at the time of this recording, this chapter isn't fully translated yet, but we can honestly get a pretty good idea of what's going on just looking at the webcomic, because this chapter is pretty much almost a one-for-one transfer of the webcomic, introducing all these new characters. What we're going to find out will be the Neo leaders, so kind of like the S class of the Neo heroes. And one of them we actually met in the previous chapter, named Webby Gaza. And that's the person that's on the cover of this chapter. So, those that enjoy the Fubuki covers or the Tatsumaki covers, there you go. You got a new waifu to enjoy on covers, because we're probably going to be seeing her pretty often. I'm assuming. But I mean, again, that was not enough to please many fans that were waiting for the Blast versus Empty Void stuff. So many people are pretty upset. But again, we'll save that for the end. Let's get right into the chapter. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this chapter over my face, kind of enlarge it so you guys can see it, because I know you'd rather be seeing the chapter than my face. And just to kind of go over what some of these characters look like. But I'm going to hop over to the webcomic as well to give you guys the description of each one of these characters, because they are going to be pretty important later on. As we can see in this chapter, we're kind of picking up right where the previous one left off. Suiryu is meeting Metal Bat and also Child Emperor or Wild Emperor. Following this moment is when we get introduced to the other Neo leaders. Well, first off, we get introduced or reintroduced to Super Alloy Darkshine. And the big reveal in this chapter for him is that he has retired from the Hero Association. So, along with Metal Bat and Child Emperor, he has also left the Hero Association for the Neo Heroes. And we're going to find out in this chapter is because he just decided to retire. He doesn't feel like he's fit to be a hero anymore. If you guys remember from the Monster Association arc, he pretty much had his mental fortitude completely broken down by all the defeats that he took. So that's the first major reveal of the chapter, being that Super Alloy Darkshine is now no longer an S-Class hero. He is now working with the Neo Heroes to train their new recruits. He's pretty much just going to be like a coach, is pretty much what his new role is. So the first guy we're introduced to is this one on the left side here. I don't know if you guys can see my cursor, but I'm hovering over him. His name is Ryuman. So I'm going to hop over to the webcomic, because this is where we get an initial breakdown of who this guy is. His name is Ryuman, which also means Dragon Gate, I guess. And he's the leader of the 400-strong gangster organization, Ryuman Gumi. Even though he has benefited significantly from anti-establishment activities in the past, he has resolved to contribute positively to society through violence from now on, and work as a hero, under the condition that Ryuman Gumi be under Neo Hero surveillance. That said, their battle prowess cannot be understated. So, essentially, this is the Neo Heroes. Let me just make it a little smaller here. This is the Neo Heroes pretty much hiring criminals to work amongst their ranks. Because Ryuman's group apparently has a lot of strength, a lot of pull, and you're going to be seeing with the rest of these members of the Neo leaders, they're pretty loose with the requirements on what it takes to be a Neo leader. You pretty much just have to have power and influence. It has nothing to do with your hero track record or anything like that, like it would with the Hero Association. So it's going to be a trend with the rest of these guys. The next one that we're introduced to is Axel on this left side here. So we've seen Axel before in the manga. We got introduced to him right after the Monster Association arc ended. He, of course, is the leader of the Hunters. the young leader of the civilian vigilante group, the Hunters. He has the experience of defeating several monsters, and from now on, the other 47 members of the Hunters will be given appropriate salaries and conduct under the banner of the Neo Heroes. As we kind of were given this information in the when he was first introduced, he's the leader of a group called the Hunters, and they're people that they're pretty much, their power is in their numbers. They don't have any particularly super strong heroes on their side. They're pretty much just like a band of regular people that take down monsters together. So they're not very strong themselves. Axel is kind of alluded to be pretty powerful individually, but his group of hunters is not. They're just in it. They just kind of brought them in for the numbers, right? And you're going to kind of see this with a couple of these Neo leaders. So after Axel, we get introduced to, let's see who it is. Yeah, this guy right here on the right. His name is, if I'm saying it right, his name is Infelsinave. So, and he has a pretty weird situation going on too. So if you see him in this, let me make this a little bigger. This panel right here in the webcomic, it says his name's Infelsinave. He's the founder of the Church of the Otherworldly Reincarnation, which has amassed a very large number of followers in recent years. The 900,000 believers who worship him will all be supporters of the Neo leaders. So that's a lot of people. That is a ton of people. So as we're going to learn, Infelsinave, whether he has abilities or not, like any powers or whatever, it doesn't seem like it's going to matter much, because the fact, like with his introduction, the fact that his like follower number was brought up, you can kind of assume that that's like the main reason why he's here, is because he has so many followers that will now be under like the umbrella of the Neo Heroes. That's probably the main reason why he joined here. So that's very odd as well. We have a criminal and now we have a cult leader, not shaping up to be a very heroic Neo leaders group, right? We also get introduced to, let's see, in the next page, this guy right here with the earrings and the weird haircut. He's like on the bottom left here as well. His name is Zayditz. Now he's pretty much like, I don't want to say the Tony Stark of this One Punch Man universe, but he's a super rich guy, owns a bunch of companies, and he has amassed a large fortune that he's willing to invest into the Neo Heroes. Again, somebody that has apparently joined the Neo Heroes that doesn't seem to be very heroic. They're just kind of like beneficial to the Neo Heroes in a certain way. Infelsinave gives them the numbers, and Zayditz gives them the money. And that's why he's a Neo leader. Whether or not he's a good guy or a bad guy, that's yet to be seen. But I mean, if the only impressive thing that can be brought up about him is his wealth at this point, it doesn't bode well for his, heroic traits or anything like that, right? Moving on, we get to Webby Gaza, who, of course, we've seen in the previous chapter, but now we have like a full-scale image of what, Murata has designed her as for the manga. As we saw in the previous chapter, she's pretty strong because she pretty easily defeated a demon-level monster. So, literally, out of the entire bunch of new Neo leaders that we were introduced to, she is by far seemingly the strongest at this point. The interesting thing that we see here is that Suiryu tries to touch her shoulder, right here in this top left panel, and he seems to burn his hand, and he's like, whoa, what the hell, like, why is she steaming hot? And if you guys remember from the previous chapter, randomly when she was talking to the public, she like started chugging this gallon of water, and it was like, what was that about? You know what I mean? It was kind of like to cool her down, I guess. So again, we don't know exactly what's going on with Webby Gaza yet in the manga, like how she has her powers, why she's like piping hot to the touch. But you can kind of start building an idea of what's going on with her, but this stuff's going to get revealed a little bit later on, so I don't want to spoil it for any manga-only readers. Yeah, so that's pretty much like I said, it's not a very long chapter, so the last thing that we kind of touch on before this chapter ends, Super Alloy Darkshine gets introduced as a Neo leader immediately afterwards, and that's when we get informed that he's not going to be doing any combat, he's just going to be training. He's going to be training the new recruits. And that's when Raiden, a character that we met a while back, that was trying to get recruited by the Hero Association, and he denied them, that's when he shows up. And we're going to learn that he's also going to be one of the Neo leaders. He creeps up on Super Alloy Darkshine, and he probably says something to the effect of like, oh, you're not fighting, which we're going to see in future chapters he's going to take a very big offense to, the fact that a former hero isn't fighting and protecting the public anymore. He's kind of like hiding behind the scenes, which is kind of what he's doing. It really is, because I mean, That's why Super Alloy Darkshine retired, because his confidence got shot. He doesn't feel like he's a hero anymore. That's going to be an interesting little story arc to follow as this entire Neo Heroes arc goes along. Unfortunately, that's all we get this week. And the way that this chapter ended, it's giving me the impression that we're probably going to be sticking with these guys for the next chapter as well, which is not something that many of you probably wanted to hear. So that being said, just to kind of give like a bird's eye view, I guess, of like the fan base as a whole and One Punch Man as a whole, I've noticed that a lot of people have been very, very upset with like these recent chapters because they're pulling completely away from what we were waiting for from the Blast versus Empty Void stuff, right? Not only did we get this 2-month hiatus, which again, well deserved. Murata needs a break. Very happy that he decided to take some time for himself to kind of just, relax, enjoy the stuff that he likes to enjoy, and just not be drawing manga for a little bit, just rest up. That's totally cool. I have no complaints about that at all. I don't even have any complaints that we're getting these chapters at all either, because like this stuff is necessary, right? This is necessary plot building chapters that are building towards the next major arc of the series. But my issue, and I feel like the issue that a lot of other people have right now with One Punch Man, is like the structuring of the story just seems not good. Like just all over the place. Not only does it make readers not care so much about what's happening right now in the manga, which I am going to say it is important because these characters are important, it's also taking away all the hype that Empty Void had built up in the previous 20 chapters of the Ninja Village arc. Like ideally we would have rather liked to wrap up that arc before we move on to this stuff. Like if these chapters were going to be coming out without the hiatus, people would have probably been upset, that we're cutting away from the Blast and Empty Void stuff, but they wouldn't be as upset because okay, we're just cutting away to do this stuff and we're going to cut back to it in a couple weeks. But no, we had that 2-month break and then we have this. So I just don't know what they're thinking, honestly. I don't know whose idea it is to structure these chapters this way, to give us this information at a time where no one really cares about it. Again, I don't like to sound like the type of One Punch Man fan that just wants to see action and fights and all these crazy god level events happening. I do very much enjoy the story building, the lore building chapters. That's what makes One Punch Man truly great for me, because it has the great action, but it also has amazing characters, has an amazing story, and that's what I love to follow. So under normal circumstances, this chapter would have been pretty cool, getting introduced to all these new characters that are going to play a major role in this upcoming arc. That's awesome, but we're still not done with the Ninja Village stuff. We've been on the Ninja Village stuff for 4 months now, because we had the initial Ninja Village arc, then we had the redraws, then we had the hiatus, and now we're getting this. So what the hell? You know what I mean? I don't know if one is green lighting all this, if he's if he's just looking at all this and he's yeah, that's cool. Let's just chop the story up in the weirdest way possible and just let it roll, I don't know how much of a say he has in these manga chapters. I'm assuming he has a pretty big say because he is the creator, right? So I don't know why he isn't stepping up and saying hey, this is kind of odd structuring. Let's wrap up the Empty Void versus Blast stuff first, and then let's get to this when people can actually be invested and interested. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know, man. This chapter, on its own, solid chapter, great introductions to these characters. The designs to the characters looks pretty awesome. Murata never fails in that aspect. But in terms of story structure, in terms of just garnering excitement from the fan base, I feel One Punch Man is doing a really, really bad job right now. I don't know. I just feel like things they're not handling this the right way. They're not handling this arc the right way. They're not handling these last 30 chapters the right way because of all the redraws and again the hiatus that was well deserved, but coupling that with how the manga has returned definitely has killed a large amount of the hype in the fan base. I hope some of you guys looked past that and got some enjoyment out of this chapter, got some enjoyment out of the new characters that got introduced. But me personally, I'm a little annoyed. I'll be honest, I'm a little annoyed because next chapter is probably going to be more of the same. for the sake of the fans, for the sake of the hype of the series, don't do us dirty like this, man. Come on. Well, that pretty much does it for my opinions on this chapter. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know if you enjoyed it, if you hated it, what you think about like how this arc has been structured recently. I can't wait to see your guys' comments because I do read all of them. So definitely let me know your opinion below. But that is it for this one, though. Have an absolutely wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, whatever. And I will see you guys in the next video.